Hello and welcome to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast with Glow London and The Drum. I'm Emma Harris, Chief of Glow London and founder of the Slow the Fuck Down movement. In May 22, I had a completely out of the blue cardiac arrest and the odds of 96-4 surviving unscathed. Since then, I've been committed to sharing the perspective I'm now blessed with, that many of us are wasting the precious time we have on this planet with unsustainable pace and stress. In each episode, I'll welcome some fabulous guests onto the show to share their stories of how slowing down or not has affected their lives, their teams, and their businesses. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast. I'm your host, Emma Harris, and today you can see I'm very excited that I am joined by two absolutely brilliant guests. Today we have Reuben Arnold and Drew Povey. Reuben started at Eurostar, who's actually there on day one of Eurostar's operations in 1994, worked his way up through operations and into commercial, one of those very rare breeds of marketeers who actually has an operational background, then went on to Virgin, Starbucks and Haven. And he is joined today by Drew Povey, the brilliant star of the TV programme Educating Manchester. Drew was famous for turning around a very challenging school in Manchester with his brilliant techniques. He then took a lot of that learning and his understanding about performance in elite sport and has now become one of the most respected leadership coaches in the business. I am very excited to be joined by you both. Welcome, Reuben and Drew.
Thank you.
So we did a pre-meet on this and it was about 80% laughing. So let's try and focus on the content. We start with quite a serious question for all our guests, which is, look, the world is kind of bonkers right now. Everyone seems to be running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And when people are running, not great performances happening. How do you think we have got here? I'll start with you, Drew.
In this world we're living in today,
Yeah,
it's hyperactive. I mean that culturally, not clinically, but we live in a hyperstimulated, hyperactive world. And I think that understanding that and how we manage that is going to be one of the key factors to be able to get through that. And I think that when you think about how we've ended up here, in my lifetime, there's probably three things that I've seen shift over time. I think we used to talk about the quality of stuff. So you talk about quality assurance. But then I think it kind of moved to, well, we want quality, but we want quantity. We want more. We want like stuff on top of that good stuff that you're already doing. And then I think they also, over time, we've kind of, if you look at the Amazon model, it was about quality, then it was about more and more quantity, but then it was about quickness as well.
Yeah.
And we all talk about life, I think the pace of change in the world, which is just crazy. The Ray Kurzweil stuff, scares the shit out of me every time I hear it. 20,000 years of change in this century alone makes me panic. But then when you think about it, it's probably reasonably accurate, even though it's a bit of a headline grabber. But why are we here in this hyperactive world? Well, I think it's about the expectations that we're putting on ourselves and that the world's putting on us from those three cues that I mentioned. So what we've got to try and do is find the best way of trying to get through that, which is why I love this podcast. I think it's important that we try and change some of the narrative around it, because if we keep going down that same negative route of saying, well, there's all these problems and how we're going to cope, well, that'll become our reality. How can we shift the narrative? Slowing down, and not just slow down, slow the fuck down. I mean, this is as northern as it gets.
Or Cockney.
Yes.
Yeah,
Cockneys are included.
Yes, Londoners. I love that. And I agree with you. I think we perpetuate it as well, because like the Amazon thing, we all hate Amazon. We don't love Jeff Bezos. We don't agree with his values. We know he's part of that power play happening at the top, yet we're all addicted to it, because if you've got that convenience element, then it's really hard to go, I'll go to the local supplier, it's going to take 3 weeks to deliver it. So you're right, we've got to change our habits.
And it's the addiction to that. You're right. Yeah. It's the addiction to chaos. It's the addiction to speed, fast scrolling, fast speaking, fast decisions. And we've celebrated it for years. Yeah. Even in education, first kid with a hand up, they're the brightest and the best. Yes. So we've got to change some of this, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Rubes.
Listen, I think actually we've probably always been here, right? I mean, if I think back to like the last 20, 30 years when I've been working, thanks for reminding everybody how old I am. Actually being stressed and like uber busy was a bit of a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the more you were running around like a lunatic, the more back-to-back meetings you were going between, like it was a mark of how important and how successful you were. But that said, if you kind of think about now, I think more specifically within marketing, I mean, I do agree that, for marketing leaders and CMOs, they have never been under more pressure. And, there's the obvious reasons that we all talk about, which, that proliferation of channels, there's never been more requirement for, more content, more data, more MarTech, more tools, with less and less to be able to do it. And then coupled with that, as marketeers, we haven't actually really kept up with that pace of change in the way we operate, whether that's our operating models, our ways of working. So we're kind of trying to, everything's on fire because there's so much to do with so much less resource, but we are, trying to fix things while still running on that hamster wheel. It's a bit like kind of running a marathon whilst performing open heart surgery, which is a really inappropriate analogy. I just realised. But, I think that what is true is that, there is more pressure on marketing leaders. It's not exclusive to our industry by any means, but I think, I would say this, but marketing leaders are definitely, I think you said once, Emma, to me that, no one gets a hard time like the CMO in the boardroom. And it is true. I mean, everyone's got a bloody opinion on because you can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it.
Because their daughters are on TikTok.
They're on Instagram. And, and just, I was thinking about this the other day, actually. I remember thinking back to my Virgin Atlantic days, sitting around that table. Oh my God, like literally every single, like from the CEO to the CFO and everybody in between had an opinion. Every time they came off a bloody flight, they had an opinion about what we should do with the food, the bloody amenity kits, who cares?
Yeah.
But no one was telling my friend, the ops and engineering director, how to fix the engine. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I think there is definitely more pressure for all of those reasons. But I think, to your point, Drew, I think what is good is that we are talking about it more, not, on this, or acknowledging the fact that we have to slow down in order to go faster and perform better.
Yeah, because on the other side of that marketing challenge is the consumer getting all that stuff as well. So we're also, even if we're not in marketing, we're receiving all that. Yeah. So it's that perpetual circle of we've got to do more, we've got to receive more. I look, when my kids are scrolling, I don't know how they're even... I'm like, slow down. Their brains are programmed to absorb information in like nanoseconds.
It's frightening, right? I've got 3 teenage boys. Well, one's early 20s now. So that's just a joy. 3 teenage boys at home, right? For a myriad of reasons. Xboxes and BO is what I describe. The
stiff socks.
Stiff socks. Don't mind you taking me there.
Sorry.
Stop it. Edit that out, please. But I'm like, I am amazed, right? And it goes back to that badge of honor. Like my kids, right, they will play on the Xbox or the PlayStation, right, and then they've got the mates on the phone talking, and they're watching on another screen somebody playing the same game that they're playing on another screen on YouTube. So they're doing 3 things, and that for me, I'm in awe of it. But then I want to smack them around the head at the same time because I'm going, just do one thing at once. Watching TV and scrolling, that's a new thing. And even I've started doing a bit of that. And kind of like we've got to find a way of jamming the mechanism. And as Reuben just said there, bring that conversation in now. Let's start talking about it, because the more we talk about it, I think the smarter we'll get about it too.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here to do. So, and I love the fact that this is the antidote to the whole world. Love it. Thank you, everyone. Share. Was it subscribe and share and tell your friends. Drew.
Yes.
How are you doing in all this madness? How are you doing?
Within the world we live in?
Yeah.
I would say balancing, just about, I think. When I think about life and everything I've kind of said earlier, I think it's a balancing act all the time, and we're not always going to get that right. It's a bit like being on a tightrope, and I'll wobble a bit, and sometimes it feels like I'm not quite staying up where I need to be, but I try my best to have things around me, systems, people, where I stay as balanced as I can. So I'm balanced-ish. I mean, you've met me, you know me. So whether I am balanced ever is probably the biggest question. But I think I'm balanced.
Not a word I would naturally describe you as.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm on the journey to being balanced, and I think that's what we're all doing. And I think there's a danger probably in sometimes going, this is the way it's got to look and be. Because I think in various phases of your life, depending on what you're going through or what the most significant thing in your life is, the balance will go out of kilter. You know, I love the wheel of life thing that, you know, a lot of people talk about and use today. And I think they should, where you look at all the aspects of your life. Is it in balance? Well, in the ideal world, you might want it to be, but sometimes family's got to take over, and other times work, you've got, you know, you need to put a bit more in there. Where it becomes a problem, I think, is when you are over indexing in one of those areas, because success is not the overachievement in one area, of course, it's the rounding out of all of the areas. So it's being aware of that and trying to keep that balance, or myself balanced, is probably how I'd say it. So I'm doing all right. I'm wobbling. It's dynamic rather than static, but I'm doing all right.
Yeah, well, you'd be bored if it was.
So. You're right, actually.
No, you're well enough to know that. I mean, Slow the Fuck Down is about the balance. So it's about the micro decisions that we make. It's not saying give it all up and sit on a beach, although that does sound fun.
It does.
But it's about saying, in any moment, the choices I'm making to create that balance. Why am I feeling this? Why am I choosing this? Why am I reacting like this? Because often the answer to that question is some mad catastrophization that doesn't exist. Our unconscious minds, with our fight and flight natural predisposition to think negatively. So we end up, that's why we work, because we're protecting ourselves from something that isn't actually happening. And that was the big thing for me when I woke up in ICU. It was like, I've put all of the wrong stuff at the forefront because of the madness of my mind. And that's it. People say, oh, you're not really slowing down. Well, I am, because the choices I make every day are so present. So.
And did you know that at the time as you were running into it? Or was it a case of I probably knew, but I didn't understand it?
I mean, I had all this knowledge because I'd studied NLP and I spent 20 years studying elite sport as part of the Planet K2 family. Yeah. So I know about human behaviour. That was the big thing, is like, I'm a hairdresser with bad hair. What the fuck have I been doing? I know I'm telling other people how to manage their thoughts and feelings, and I'm not doing it myself.
Okay.
So it was, I say now, I don't remember that success driver. I don't have anymore. My drivers are about joy and about balance, about
good on you,
looking after people around me. I don't remember why those numbers were so important. I don't even remember why.
Yeah.
Rubes, how are you doing?
Well, sort of slightly smugly, I'm doing pretty well. But I only say that because it's taken me a long time to realise kind of what the triggers are and what kind of being okay looks like. And I suppose, I think the couple of things that I've realised, first of all, I mean, I'm naturally one of these people that sort of, what I thought was I thrive on pressure. And I think it comes back to some of the sort of operational background I had. Like, I love a deadline. That's when I do my best work. It's like, I need that pressure. I'm that sort of classic ENFP, like I'm a magpie, like I have to go after something and I have to have plate spinning. But what I realised, and I know you talk a lot about it, but you can't operate like that all the time. It's just not sustainable. I mean, it's another rubbish analogy, but like a Formula One car, even that needs to stop every few laps, refuel, or whatever they do on a pit stop. I don't know. But, in order to win the race, they have to sort of stop and retune and rebalance and make decisions about how they're going to sort of course correct. I mean, that's taken me a long time to realize. I think the other thing is, like, for the longest time, I completely misunderstood the word resilience. Like, I thought it was all about being a superhero. And like, unless you were like running 100 miles an hour, you just weren't resilient. And it was a bit sort of weak to admit that you needed to stop. So, I mean, it all sounds really basic, doesn't it? But that misunderstanding the word resilience, now I realize it's just about making really wise choices. And so, yeah, I think for me, realizing those couple of things, and then actually the other thing that again took me a long time to kind of come to realize was, if you are behaving like that as a leader, you are casting such a long shadow. And I didn't always realize that me running at 100 miles an hour, first of all, not everybody has the same profile as you. But also, I don't know, it just creates that culture, that sort of, I mean, now we call it psychological safety, don't we? But at the time, when I think about times in my life where actually I've had a really unintentional impact on my team by behaving in that way. So it's about myself, but also about the people around you, how you impact them, I think.
Yeah. So true. I'm listening to you and remembering with shame saying to one of my team at years ago, and I think I often did this, follow me to the toilet, follow me, I need a wee. Daniela's laughing in the background because she remembers those days. But follow me to the toilet. I don't have any time. If you need an answer, just tell me over the wall. I mean, what was that? Great. And listen to me.
Was it a woman?
It was a woman.
It wasn't a man. Just to be clear.
It was a woman. But I genuinely did that anyway. Has there been a time, Drew, when you forgot to slow down, and tell us about that?
Oh, loads. Daily. I speak to my kids and my wife. I think it's always about trying to keep check on that tightrope. And I was really interested in what you've both been saying, because I think leaders do set the weather, but we've got to lead ourselves first as well. And I think we've got to be very, very aware of the impact we have. Marketing's about influence, isn't it? But leadership's about influence. That's why I think the two are intertwined. So listening to some of the marketing challenges, you're influencing the influencers. So there's probably a double dynamic there. But I think trying to keep yourself on that tightrope is the challenge. And there's been so many times where I've had to kind of have a system which I will use to go catch myself in that moment. You know, when you were saying there, I probably knew it. And I think sometimes we know stuff, but we don't do anything with it. You know, the old question, isn't it? 5 frogs on a log and 3 decide to jump off. How many frogs are left on the log? And everyone goes, and then you go, it's 5, because there's 5 frogs on the log and 2 decide to jump off, or 3 decide to jump off. How many? Well, they've decided, but they've not done it. And I think sometimes we can.
I was like,
no, but it is. It's one of those questions that makes you really think. Actually, knowing something and doing something, or deciding something and doing something, it's just not the same thing. Otherwise, we'd all nail our New Year's resolutions. So I try and find what's kind of happening, that kind of understanding or recognizing patterns. What am I doing? Am I being a bit grumpy? My lads will tell you grumpy Sunday is a thing in our house. So it's Sunday, so Dad will be grumpy today. I might shut your face, lads, because I'm not grumpy ever. But then that, of course, completes the circle of exactly what's happened. But it's I think it's recognizing it. Then it's being able to step back and say, well, why has that happened? You know, why have I ended up overdoing something? Like, I don't know, is it, you know, I was fearful of missing out, or I was people pleasing, or it was an ego thing that's made me get this balance out of kilter. But then a bit like the Formula 1 car, how are we going to recalibrate that? What are those micro things, those micro habits we can do? So I think there's 3 elements to it I observe when people get it right, or when I get it right, or when people get it wrong. I think it's seeing it, like kind of recognizing it, being able to make sense of it and take the learning and understanding from it, but then recalibrating it. And just listening to your story of what you've been through, which was, I remember it happening at the time. I remember being absolutely poleaxed by it, which is, of course, nothing compared to what you've been through. But I think what you're doing now is about recalibration. But then picking up Reuben's point, you're going, hey, we need to be leading this charge, which, of course, is the podcast. We need to help other people recalibrate, because leaders do set the weather. You know, we do cast a shadow, and we are influencers, or we shouldn't have the title leader. So what are we going to do to help that? You know, knowledge of what's happening there, the understanding of how the hell we got here. Because if you don't understand how you got there, you're not going to fix it, and then recalibrate and fix that Formula 1 car, which is where the analogy of me and a Formula 1 car should come to an end.
I would love to pay good money to see that. Last one lap. And Rubes.
There is actually a very specific time. And Emma, you know that, like, going back a few years, for a number of years, I was a carer for my wife, who was terminally ill. And it's funny because I used that word only very recently, because like at the time I didn't recognize that was my role. Do you know what I mean? It's funny. It's like
being a carer.
Being a carer, because actually it's only something that I suppose, and I hear a lot of people saying the same thing, which is like people talk about me being a carer, but actually I didn't recognize that was my role. But you know, work was crazy at the same time. You know, I was traveling loads. I needed to be there for my kids. You know, both emotionally, but also there's a lot of logistics that goes around kids. And again, I thought I was being really resilient, and, you know, I didn't need any help. I was doing a really good job. I was spinning all the plates. But I got an Apple Watch, and, you know, sounds a bit nuts, but it kept pinging me saying that I had, well, first of all, it started saying great workout, you know, time for rest.
You're sat at your desk.
I was sat at my desk. And then it kept saying, oh, you know, pulse rate. And I was like, oh, that's a bit odd. So eventually I went to the doctor because I thought, oh, you know, wrong side of 50. I've probably got cholesterol. I need some pills or something. And they did, you know, the GP did all these tests like, you know, ECG, and everything was fine. And she asked me a few pertinent questions, and she said, oh, you know, your symptoms are actually sort of stress and anxiety. And I thought, what's she talking about? Like, I'm not stressed. I'm not anxious. And I didn't believe, you know, I wouldn't, you know, even when your body is telling you, I wasn't listening to it. And that was a real light bulb moment for me. It's like, shit, I need to make some changes because like now my kids depend on me. Like I need to, so, you know, I mean, how successful I was, I don't know, but it was then when I started realizing some of those things I was talking about before about, you know, make better choices. You don't have, because the reality is when you're spinning all those plates, you actually think you're being pretty shit at all of them, you know, because you're never able to give 100% to any of them at the same time. So that was a sort of light bulb moment for me, which is like, actually, do you know what, all the things you talk about, which is great that you can now sort of vocalize them and give them sort of names and tags, because just making better choices. You know, I have massive JOMO now as opposed to FOMO.
Good.
Maybe it's an age thing.
It might be. Yeah, we now get really overexcited when we're in bed before 10. It's like winning in life, whereas before it was like, you sad bastard, you're not leaving the bar at 1. But I do remember that time, and I do remember being worried, and I do remember thinking, who's looking after you? Because you were just, you know, like a whirling dervish. What's that saying? Just trying to sort of keep everything and not thinking about yourself. So, well, I'm glad that you did recognise that you made those changes. And we do all need an Apple Watch that's going to shout at us if we haven't got one ourselves. But similarly, you know, when I woke up in ICU, I was like, what do you mean? What stress? And then I thought about the fact that I was, you know, on the exec team of one business, running my own business. I'd lost both my parents in the years just before. I'd brought up 2 step kids, which was the hardest thing I've ever done. And, you know, so in some ways they're my people now, but still continues to be that challenge. You're never going to feel the whole of a mother leaving them. And, you know, married to an actor, you know, all like just like couldn't make it up. And at the time, they're like, what? I'm fine. What stress? So, it's just checking in with yourself and going, actually, am I all right? Drew, your background as a head teacher. I mean, I still have a 9-year-old, and on the days that I go into school, I'm going in tomorrow morning actually. It takes me about 10 minutes before I want to strangle all of them. And I really have to not do. And I look at these teachers who are incredibly calm, and they have this power of going. And I'm like, wow, why don't I do that at home? But so you spent many years and were an incredibly successful leader in education. What have you learnt about pace from that, and how do you apply that to working with leaders today?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for the kind words. I do refer to myself as the world's shittest head teacher. And if people don't believe it, I go, there's 2 series that back that theory up. All right. So a lot of the elements of being a head teacher, you know, I didn't get them probably as much as I should have done or understand them. But the bit I loved was leading, you know, creating a culture, dealing with a really difficult moment in the school's history. And of course, it wasn't just about me. There were just so many great people there that made this thing that shouldn't have worked because of the deficit and the history of the school. They made it work. But I think when you look at what a great teacher does, because whilst, you know, there were elements I was less good at, I think the leadership stuff I could do, but dealing with the kids, that was just a privilege. It was an absolute joy, you know. And I think when we talk Ofsteds and we're talking about DFE and league tables, we forget the power of a great teacher. You know, you and I both talk about the power of language in leadership, right? How we speak to people is going to make them feel something, and you can make someone feel like they can take the world on, or make them feel like they really shouldn't even be in the building. You know, you're going to have one of those two effects. So, you know, that is powerful, but it's also a privilege. And being able to sit with young people every day and take them on a journey. And if you think of what a teacher does, and this is what I was interested in, because I started off in sport as a coach, and I was kind of going, well, I'm trying to get these players better and get them to perform and grow them and challenge them and support them. And then you go into a classroom, and I was like, well, this is the same as coaching in sport, because I'm trying to do exactly the same thing. Then I became a leader going, well, that's what a leader's doing. You know, you're wanting to get people to reach their potential and challenge people and support people. So I think teachers can make really great leaders, but it's a privilege. And I don't speak to anybody in education, right, who's falling out of love with that dynamic, you know, going in and impacting someone's world. You know, you can put them on a completely different path just by caring, just by somebody caring. And that's the same in the leadership world. So the parallels are there. Like the great saying from Theodore Roosevelt, no one cares what you know until they know that you care. That caring agenda is, but it's a brilliant one. Because every one of us, I genuinely remember, right, being 4 years old, quite a bit shorter and a bit rounder than this, walking into school with my Action Man lunchbox under my arm, right? I hated school as a student. And I'd walk into school and I knew whether that teacher cared or not. Every person in work knows whether their leader cares or not. And I call it the give a shit-ometer, right? And I had that at 4. I'm looking at my teacher going, you either care for me or you don't. Right. And it's the same. So I think what education can give the world in a number of ways is fantastic. But teachers actually have some incredible leadership skills. So I learned a lot there. But what I did learn in every world, like we're talking marketing, or I work with the police and the NHS, or in sport, everyone's wanting pace. And actually, when that pace happens, you can sometimes forget the reason why you bothered in the first place. And we talk about core purpose, and then people roll their eyes and groan because it's, you know, business bingo or whatever people call it. But actually, why did people go into the classroom? To make a dent in someone's life. That's what you did. And hopefully you were going to do that positively. But that's the same in leadership. So there's a lot of parallels. There was so much learning. And people say, do you miss education? Absolutely, categorically, 100% not. But what I do miss, I love leadership, and it was a privilege to lead that with an incredible team. But I do miss that interaction with the kids. You know, now I get it through coaching people today, and that's great. But what is that one little thing that could really be the key to unlocking that kid's potential, particularly the naughty ones? Because I was one of them when I was at school. What's the key that can unlock that kid? Because no one's reached their potential at any point in life. There's always a bit more to go. And everybody needs that support and those words and that care. So that's what I'd say about it, but not forgetting the reason why you came into education, because people are leaving in droves. They're leaving in droves. And it's not because of what education is, it's because of what education's become.
100%. And I absolutely love that. And I wish that was something that teachers were measured against.
Oh, me too.
Because my son's school I chose, but not because of the Ofsted, because everyone I met when we looked around, it was about the kids. And I remember the headmaster at the time said to me, I'm never going to have a playground of kids that are all lining up in lines, and I don't want that. This is all about, and in fact I worked with them on their brand positioning, and it's all about them recognizing each individual and celebrating that individual, and they really care. And I don't really give a shit what it's a primary school. I don't care what their education is, as long as they come out and they can read and write. That's kind of about it, and a bit of maths, but they come out, they actually care, and that for me is worth
I think as well, if you strip it right back, why do we even bother starting education? Because very often it can be seen as just glorified babysitting.
I agree.
And I'm not being rude to anybody here, but we started education to prepare people for life. That's what it started as. my only worry today is it doing that, right? And I'm not talking as an educationalist now, I'm talking as a dad, right? Are they preparing our kid for the world that they're about to go into? We've got to develop them personally.
Yeah.
We've got to develop them socially, and the academics can come on top for me. And I think that if you spoke to most teachers, that's why they went into it. They didn't come in to go, do you know what? I was absolutely buzzing with that worksheet I created. They didn't come in for that.
Yeah.
They came in to change someone's life. Let's just get back to a bit of that. And the same for leaders.
Yeah.
That's why people wanted that role of leader.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate that too.
Because that potential is as a person. You know, I say to my kids all the time, listen, who you are is more important than what you know.
Yeah.
And 80% of business decisions are made on rapport, not technical merit. Your ability to connect with people and notice people and care and be present, that is going to get you where you want to go.
Yes.
Fuck GCSEs, fuck what exam results you get.
That
Sorry,
is Emma Harris saying
listening.
that and not Drew Povey, just to be clear, right?
I say it to my, listen, I've had two kids that I call them teenagers still, they're in their 20s.
Yeah.
But the two older ones that I've gone through GCSEs and A-levels with, I continuously said, because they had struggles, as long as you're okay, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Just do the best you can do.
That's it, effort.
And don't break yourself. And
we know
parents
this.
that I see that are so obsessed with their results, just drives me mad.
But we do that I think the world's become an outcome-focused world rather than let's look at the process that gets the outcome, because you can't guarantee an outcome. People say you can, they'll give you a 10-step, 7-step, whatever. Can't guarantee an outcome. But what you can do is work on the process to increase your chances of getting a better outcome. Yeah. Let's focus here, not just obsessing over here.
And back to your point, Rubes, that's resilience. So what you were describing, resilience is readiness.
Yeah.
It's knowing what playing conditions you're in. It's knowing what's coming and being prepared for that and doing all the things that you can do. It's not keep on pushing through. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. And Rubes, over to you. That pressure you talked about that CMOs are under. Obviously, you've been in many roles as a marketing leader, and that pressure for short-term results that I know that you've been on. How do you manage to drive your teams in the times when you were displaying better behaviours? How do you manage to keep them focused on the numbers and not kill them?
Well, I mean, I guess, well, I don't know, maybe I did. But no, you didn't. I think, going back to that leadership point, actually, one of the most important parts of your role as a marketing leader is to not shield your team, but to act as a buffer. Because when you just pass down that pressure, you're just creating a toxic, chaotic environment. You know, it's really important that the team continue to stay focused on the strategy that we set. And of course, you're always going to need to pivot, but actually helping them understand why we're doing certain things and keeping them, you know, focused on that rather than running around like headless chickens. But I would also say that if there is this relentless pressure from, you know, the CEO, the CFO about short-term results, because that's really what we're talking about, right? There's that constant pressure to say, right, what did it deliver? You know, what are the short-term results? Then I'm not doing my job very well. Do you know what I mean? If I haven't educated the rest of the C-suite to understand that marketing is not all about short-term results, or I haven't done a good job of providing them with that right mix and balance of results, then if they're asking those questions, that's because I haven't done a good enough job. So I suppose the simple answer to your question is, you know, as a leader, being part of that C-suite, you have the biggest role in terms of driving the credibility of marketing to have a seat at that top table and help them understand. You have to speak the language of the CEO and the CFO. And I think that's a thing that is definitely a mistake that we all make in marketing. Is talk marketing bollocks, sitting on a beanbag talking marketing bollocks. And the CFO just thinks you're some flaky marketing twat. Yeah. But so I say that's why it's our responsibility to assume that, you know, and also sometimes we spend so long trying to justify marketing. No, just assume the responsibility, behave like everybody else around that table, and help them understand what that whole range of mix of metrics looks. So I suppose, it comes down to, it's my responsibility to make sure that's happening, to make that noise go away.
I have to say, without exception, every marketing leader that we work with has that issue about the leadership team that the leader is amongst. That's where the chaos comes in. That's where the pressure comes in. That's where the team are feeling that stress because they're creating chaos, and getting the marketing leader to be able to keep that at bay, get on the front foot, stop waiting to receive. We need this, we need get on the front foot, create the agenda, protect the team. It's a really difficult thing
and sort of make sure they understand the strategy. But it just reminded me of a really funny example. It's a few years ago, but when we launched a new campaign and it had a TV element to it, we launched the TV ad. The next morning, the CEO said to me, how are the sales doing? What's the impact? It's like you totally missed. But then I realised that's my fault. I haven't helped him understand. That's kind of not how it works.
Yeah. What was your answer? Well, we're up 6%. It's doing really well. Unbelievable. So, Drew, one of the things we talked about at the beginning in terms of how mad the world is, there's just so much going on at the moment. And we probably talk about this on every podcast, but, with not just the challenges that leaders are happening within their own discipline, but, the world's going fucking mental. I mean, you can't, I try and not listen to the news because when everything I hear about Trump.
Don't listen to the news.
Don't listen to the news. I don't. I try not to. But, all the stuff, political, economic, everything going on, AI is coming to kill us. How do you not get dragged down into that? Is it just as easy as not listening to the news?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of things we know, again, but we don't do. I think listening to the news is like you could almost get PTSD, from listening to the news. And at the start of the year, I think we were 6 days in to the year, and Donald Trump had gone into Venezuela. He was talking about Greenland. Actually, when the news alert came up, on my first, which is brilliant. But in the first couple, I got a news alert. It did actually come through on my phone, which the notification should have been off, and I didn't have my glasses on, and I actually read it as Donald Trump goes into Venezuela, and I thought it said for Manjaro. And I'm going, why is he going to Venezuela for a weight loss drug? And of course he wasn't. He was going to take the leader out of it. And I was just like, this is crazy. Surely they do that in America. Is it tariffs? What's going on? But within the first few days, you kind of had all this crazy stuff happening. The Premier League managers getting sacked. Our government were getting pelters left, right and centre. And you're thinking, like, this is mad. Absolutely mad. So how do you make sense of it? How do we work through it? And I think it's difficult, but I also think we get pulled into stuff. That velocity vortex that you talked about on previous episodes, we kind of get pulled into it. We get a bit addicted to it, and we forget sometimes that, like, we can drive our own life.
It's nothing to do with us.
Do you know when we were growing up, you'd have that phrase when you'd say "get a life" to someone. I keep saying it to myself, Drew, get a life. Actually get a life. Like, actually get hold of your life, grab the steering wheel and drive your life in the direction you want it to be. Because I think a lot of these things are perceptions that we can fall into. Not everything, but I think sometimes I was doing a conversation with a number of leaders recently, and someone's like, "You've got to be on social media," and one of them just went, "I'm not. Why? Why do I need to?" And they were coming out with it, and he was like, "No, I'm not playing that game. I'm not doing that." And I kind of voted out of the news a while ago, notwithstanding that I don't know whether you can actually trust it, depending on what you're being told. So like, what is the point? So I always laugh about the news being negative as well, that negativity bias everyone talks about, because they only do that because we buy it. I don't know if you know this, they started a positive news channel in America a number of years ago. It only lasted 6 months because no one watched it. And that kind of tells you, when people whinge about the news. So it's not like there isn't anything on. So I think what we've got to do is create, again, as I said earlier, jam the machinery. And a little bit like I was saying before, I help people think in sport, right? So you might have a very small moment of time, like when a try's been scored or conceded, or goal's been scored and conceded, or in business when I'm working with teams. Just have a look at the way you're thinking. And I think it's about rethinking. So metacognition, right? Thinking about your thinking. And just 3 really simple steps is what I do with myself, but I've given it to loads of other people and it works. And step number 1 is the pause. And everyone talks about the pause, and of course pause is different to stop, but just think of it as like a brain break. Give your brain a break. like have a minute, have a breather, whatever you want to call it. Just pause, because we know that is a moment when the ideas can come to you, and they do pause. Robert Poynton stuff's brilliant. So pause. But then when you've paused a little bit after that, I think you've got to try and get perspective, which has got kind of an S in brackets on the end of it, which is about just zoom out, right? Have a look at a view to get it from a different angle. This is my left hand, and it's going to look very different to you because there's nails and hairs and knuckles, and this side towards is like smooth. Same hand, but a different perspective. So get other people's perspective. Try and work out and get that understanding. And then I think once you've done that bit, then you can go and set the priorities. And I think by asking just a really simple question like, what matters most now? Now people listen to that and they go, yeah, we got that, Drew. What matters most now? Got it. And I'm like, but just think about it, because what matters, right? Because a lot of stuff doesn't matter and we pretend it does. Totally, right? So actually get rid of that stuff. Okay, what matters most? Right, so now we're going, right, there's a hierarchy here of the things that matter in our life. And then you can add a bit of time focus with what matters most now. And I see it like as a funnel. And I think if you do that, when you've got perspective and other people's views as well, because we're blind to so much stuff. I'm sure it's not just me, but I get told by my wife and lads regularly, you're not saying that straight.
Stuff in the sink.
Yeah. Yeah. And other things around the house. But also then you've got, you can only do any of that when you pause. So a really simple thing like that. And then people go, we need an away day, Drew, to do the pause. And I'm like, I think you can do it in like 30 seconds in a meeting. Just have a breath. Think, what's kind of happening here? And then go back in and go, right, here's what I think we should do now. Yeah. Just have that gap between stimulus and response that Viktor Frankl talks about.
Absolutely. And that is slow the fuck down. It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Just take a moment to make sure you're not just running the 95% of our behavior that's unconscious, because it's listening to so many things that don't exist and aren't important and you can't control. So actually, what's that engine doing? Let's just stop. Oh, it's responding to the madness. Let's be present. Focus on reality. Rubes, we're nearly out of time, but I've got a couple more questions. Being a single parent, I'm in the middle of a 9-week single parent stint and struggling. You've been a single parent to fairly big kids now for a while. How is that, your pace with that and slowing down and helping them slow down, because kids are a million miles an hour? How have you managed your pace with all that, being a single parent, working, everything you've been doing?
Well, I mean, listen, I think anyone who's a parent or anyone who's got kind of responsibilities outside of work probably all feel the same, right? Which is sometimes those are the things that actually force you to prioritize and make decisions, because you have to, right? I mean, I know like when my kids were younger, it kind of forced me, I had to leave at a certain time because, I needed to be there for them. I needed to feed them. I still feed them.
You do.
But so part of that forces you rather than you feeling like, oh no, I need to do it. But actually the mistake I made was sort of in that time, like I would go back, do all of the logistics and all of that stuff. And then like 10 o'clock, I'd log back on, start catching up, because you sort of feel a little bit, I left at 5 o'clock. Like, so you have a bit of kind of good Catholic guilt about that. So you catch up later. But going back to that point I was saying earlier, that casts a kind of an unintentional consequence, and that you, like your team think, oh God, we all need to be working at 10 o'clock. I mean, it took me ages to realize that was the effect I was having. So I think, it forces you to. Do you know what? It's a funny thing. Last year, I was at this International Women's Day panel thing, and they were talking about flexible working and how it was really important to encourage more women into leadership. And, I thought, yeah, totally, absolutely. And I've always, looked around the table and thought, that's great that they do compressed hours and they're a senior leader. It never occurred to me, like, why the fuck didn't I do that? And I think now looking back at it, it was probably because there was this like unconscious sort of gender stereotyping, like that wouldn't be well perceived, like a man saying I want to work 4 days, or I mean, it sounds bonkers now, but absolute. So I mean, all of these things retrospectively, like you realize, but I think it's just goes back to everything we were saying, is you've got to take control of your own life. No one's going to do it for you, unless you've got to get a life. You've got to do it yourself, and just realize that you've got to reprioritize.
And they grow up quick,
Yeah. They do, but they don't need you, but they do need you.
I mean, when they need, what I always say, the bigger they get, the less they need you, but their problems are bigger.
Yeah.
So, and more expensive.
Yeah.
Much more expensive.
Yeah.
And it can't all be solved with a plaster or a kiss on the forehead. So that's the challenge. Well, we are really out of time, but we need to ask one more question. So everyone listening to this podcast, as you both have, taking lots of great stuff away, what's the one message you want people to hear to help them slow the fuck down? Drew, I'll ask you first.
Well, do it first of all, because I think a lot of people think slow is weak and slow is wise. I've never seen anyone do anything slow, anything unwise, when they're really slowed down. I think that's a big one. And I think just take a moment would be my big, grab that steering wheel, but take a moment before the kind of moment takes you and you start reacting to stuff. There's always a bit of time for a pause. And just one more thing, if I can, because I think when people are going through difficult times, I always want to go, look, what I kind of given anybody listening to this or anybody in the room today. And I think that one of the biggest things we forget is that we've got a much bigger capacity than we realize. We're stronger than we realize. And actually, whatever people are going through, they'll find a way through it. We're incredibly resilient. I've been through tough times. You've been through much tougher times, both of you, than I have currently in my life. But you know what? We find a way through, us humans. We'll be all right, and just keep focused on that, because it's too easy to forget. And that's when the spirals start for me.
Reverse that spiral. Love that. Rubes.
Do you know what? Actually, one of the things is the thing that you talked about, which is catastrophe. I mean, you've given it a name, like catastrophization. I use that all the time now, because it's like, what's the worst that could happen? And when you're in work, everything seems so important. It's really not, actually. If you do the steps back to say, if I don't do this, if I don't do that. And that's not to say you don't give a shit about things. It's about thinking, what are the things that I can control? What am I going to focus on? And what's all the noise that really doesn't matter, or it's just in my head? Like that's like being the most powerful thing for me, because I think it's like some things just don't matter. You can let them drop, or if you don't do them, you can't be operating at 100% and doing everything 100%. So I mean, I know that's I'm stealing your thunder, but that's been a really powerful thing for me, because like you said, Drew, if you don't do that, something else will do it for you. And then it could be too late. So and then on a really kind of very, very basic level, something that I've started doing, which sounds really stupid, but I get up half an hour earlier every morning. And what it means is that I can go downstairs and have a coffee, just enjoy my coffee without my phone. And that's my pause moment.
I love it. Brilliant.
And it's so basic, but it's like when you're working, if you take that, because you know what we all do, like on the train and scrolling, catching up on you, and that stress is already starting. Whereas if you start, it sets up your day. I mean, it sounds really obvious, and I do try and do it most days.
Weekends as well.
Yeah.
Good on you.
I mean, I do the NYT puzzles. So my day starts with Wordle, connections, mini crossword,
but I'm shit
and a bit of Sudoku. And I am so militant about that. I won't look
on
at
paper
an email.
or on your phone.
It is on my phone, but it's not. I'm not looking at emails. I'm not looking at messages. I'm not responding to the world. It's me and my little bubble of getting my sort of brain working. That's my beginning of my day. But I absolutely love that. And thank you, because you're not stealing my thunder. You've been listening. And at least one of my husbands does. You're my work husband, or were for a long time. I think the other one probably does, but hides it very well anyway. But listen, you guys have been absolutely amazing. Oh God, I could sit here for hours talking. It's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much. Honestly, pleasure. I think people listening to this, I'm going to get lots of, I listened to Rubes and Drew's episode. It was amazing. So thank you. This has been Slow the Fuck Down. Thank you for listening to the Slow the Fuck Down podcast with Glow London and The Drum. If you found this episode interesting and insightful, please help us spread the word by giving us a follow or sharing it with your friends. And if you feel inclined to give us a quick review, that would be awesome. Let's all do what we can to help the world slow the fuck down.